Grant, really happy to be with you here today. Before you started, I did a post on LinkedIn, and at the time I wrote that I am looking forward to meet my very human new boss, who is not an agentic AI boss. And then we went to Davos together, and it would be really interesting to me to hear what are your thoughts on Davos? Where's the state of the industry?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm glad to have proven to you that I'm not a hologram. It was my first time at Davos, and I think it was, in some respects, a really concentrated articulation of what's going on in the world, of what our clients are experiencing, of what we're experiencing. You know, dramatic economic uncertainty, geopolitical uncertainty on a sort of scale and magnitude that we probably haven't seen for decades. And all of this really crammed into this very small, very cold, very snowy environment. And so you experience in an incredibly acute way what all of that means for our clients, for our competitors, for us. The sort of tendency to potentially become paralyzed with all of the complexity that's happening in the world. And I think it's a good, stark, important reminder that we have to continue not only being real citizens of the world, learning what's going on, being connected to what's happening around us, but also actively making sure that it doesn't scare us or cause us to freeze. Because at the end of the day, our clients rely on us to help them understand the world, to help them navigate it, to help them make decisions about how to manage their own reputation, about how to tell their stories. And those stories are going to get more and more complicated. We talked about, there's so much of the conversation was about AI and about the implications of AI on the economy, on the workforce, on the future of jobs. And all of this rooted in this time where no one really knows what to trust or who to believe, where facts are often in question, where mis and disinformation sort of run rampant. And at the end of all of it, what I couldn't help but take away was so much of the success of the future hinges on the kind of work that we do, telling stories that are credible and accurate and precise and true, but also compelling and memorable, helping our clients engage in a world that's often hostile or confusing or scary, helping them navigate all the same things that we are by both figuring out what we think it means for us and driving transformation and modeling behavior, but also being brave and creative in how we solve problems and what we bring to them.
That is really, I 100% agree. When we went to Davos, we also got a similar reaction from the clients that we might work, because we had some clients there. And thank you for helping, and on really short notice, preparing and presenting our agentic AI report in Davos. And I think it was really a success. So, and we get that feedback from client also. So what are your thoughts on the role of agentic AI? We've done some stuff in there. What do you see? What also did you hear from clients that you talked to?
Yeah, I think it's really important because right now, all of this stuff is changing, and we have kind of two competing things going on at once, right? We have technology evolving at a pace which could fully and completely transform what we do, what all of our clients do. At the same time, it's happening in spaces where often a lot of our clients, I think, feel like they don't know enough. They haven't had enough time to get up to speed, to learn, to be trained. And so this kind of gap between what's possible and necessary and what we're capable of right now, what our clients are capable of right now, is sometimes quite wide. And so in those conversations, I think the research, which, you know, I'm so appreciative to all the work that went on before I even joined, right, with the Hotwire team and ROI DNA and the House of Beautiful Business, the work really crystallized how to start to take first steps into this agentic future, right, where instead of waiting to see what happens, or maybe more commonly waiting for the perfect solution or the perfect answer, there are actually some pretty immediate next steps that we can start to take And I think we really did a good job of describing that to clients and the other guests that we had at the session, which started to make it feel digestible. It started to make it feel possible that you could act, you could do something. And you didn't need to wait for everything to be perfect. I think for a lot of feedback I got from clients was kind of around that we really empowered them to feel like they could start somewhere. From little things like beginning to think about how agents become part of your workforce, right? How they become part of your team in a way that augments what your human talent can do, right? Helps them unlock more impact. Helps them make their own jobs maybe more fun, right? Makes some of the work that they don't like automatable while allowing them to spend more time doing things they do like. For example, I think, the idea that the role of LLMs in how reputation is formed and built, how we see when clients think about the work they do, right? You think about how you tell a story. We always start with who are our audiences? What do they care about? What do we need to communicate to them? We really are introducing a whole new audience with these LLMs, these answer engines. And this is a new audience that speaks a different language, that ingests information in different formats in ways that are new. And I think that represents an enormous opportunity for communicators, because often what those LLMs are looking for is the kind of stuff we do. It's data-driven storytelling. It's in-depth, right? The press release is really important. Company websites are really important. Earned media is really important. Organic social is really important, because these are all playing into how these answer engines index information and how they explain or how they present that information back as people ask questions of them. And so I think what the report really does is, in a sound, methodologically researched way, it takes some really complicated ideas and makes them actionable, makes it clear how to start. How do we begin to activate on this stuff? Because it's not going to slow down and it's not suddenly going to stop being important. So I think in the conversations I was having with clients, that really came through, is they felt like we began to empower them to unfreeze, to sort of start to take steps beyond the sort of, if you build it, they will come, right? Well, we have Copilot, so now everyone will use AI. That's probably not enough from a transformation perspective.
I really like the picture of companies and people unfreezing in regards of that thing and the task that they have before them. I have one third question for you, and that is probably a little bit a more personal one as a European, right? I was walking the sidewalks of Davos, and you speak to people, and very often you hear, Europe, you fell behind. You don't deliver on your promise. So it felt like, yeah, Europe is there, but this is not where it's happening right now. And obviously, me being a European and you having worked globally already, what is your thought on that? What is your position on that?
I think, I think if you look around the world and you think about innovation, different parts of the world have at different times played different roles in innovation. And I think for a period of time, let's say for the last couple decades, at least I personally have kind of looked to Europe, relied on Europe to be the thoughtful policymaker, to be the regulator, to be the check and balance on innovation run amok. And I think that's really, really important, because a lot of times what we're talking about could be a big problem. It could be a big risk. But I don't think that should be confused for lack of innovation or lack of impact. I think that's fundamentally not true. So, there is a certain humbleness and humility about Europe. I think in general, perhaps it's less likely to sort of sing its praises than some other countries. My home country, for example, is very comfortable waving the flag of, success. But I wouldn't confuse that for reality, right? I think the global order works because over time, different parts of the world evolve to play different roles. But I would not count Europe out in any of these things. I think that would be both short-sighted and not based on a realistic understanding of the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know what? It makes me really happy. I was in a panel at a German trade association a year ago, and I said, you know what? What Europe is actually doing, it's exporting regulation, and people hated me for it. But I will take you the next time, and then we will give them the other answer.
Because I think the thing is, it's not actually about regulation. That's not the point. It's about the capacity to check innovation for good. Because the point of innovation is to improve the world. Like, that should be the point. It's medical advances that cure disease or help people be healthier. It's regulations that help make sure that people aren't taken advantage of by those who are more powerful than them. It's easy to think of regulation. And when you talk about it like you did in that just now, it feels like it's a limit on business or an innovation. When in reality, I think we should think about it in a slightly different way, which is to say, all things have a potential for good and a potential for evil. And what do we as participants in society owe to make sure that the things we build, the things we create, the places where we spend our energy and effort are used for good? They make the world a better place. They make people healthier and happier and more prosperous. And I think that's not something that just happens by itself. It's something that happens by a lot of sort of people doing a lot of playing different roles in combination. So I think, maybe what we need to do is think less about it as regulation and more about it as guardrails to ensure that the outcomes are actually good for society, good for the world, and that includes good for business, right? That all goes hand in hand. A prosperous economy is good for people.
I think that is a good note to end on.
Thank you.